All right, let's go ahead and contextualize tritium releases from nuclear power plants with an emphasis on what's happening at Fukushima. We will start by looking at typical doses that a United States citizen gets every year. And this chart up here is from the Environmental Protection Agency. And what you can see is that about half of our doses come from nuclear medicine, radiography, basically the standard of living that we enjoy in the United States from medicine. And about half of our dose comes from that. A larger chunk of our dose from the natural component is from radon. You can see right here, radon and thoron. The fact that we walk around without respirators all day gives us this big chunk of dose right here. That's about 200 millirem per year. Over here, all of the medical exposures, that's over 300 millirem per year. Now, from all these natural exposures, we get about 310 millirem per year again. Now, what's of interest is from nuclear energy, and you can look up here, industrial, less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1% comes from all sources, the entire fuel cycle, from mining, milling, from the actual operation for spent nuclear fuel, all of that. And a very small fraction of that is going to come from tritium. Because tritium, it's naturally in the environment. We have something on the order of about 30 million curies of natural tritium in the environment just from cosmic ray creation. Now, the amount that's released from a nuclear power plant, that will be hundreds of curies. And that can scare somebody because those numbers are big, hundreds of curies. But you think that's a small little sliver of all of the radiation that you get naturally. All of this stuff out here is the dominant dose. And when people are afraid of tritium, they're afraid of a small fraction of a small fraction up there. The natural tritium that's in the environment, it does give you a dose, and you can measure that. We can calculate it, and that's going to be this small sliver up there. Let's take a closer look at that, shall we? Here we have those components broken up in a little more detail, where you can see the industrial component up there around 0.1%. Consumer, 2%. Now, consumer, that's things like having granite countertops. Now, granite, it's got uranium and all its decay products, and so there's a little bit of radium in there, and that radium, when it decays, it creates radon. So that consumer product right there is going to generate some radon. The same with red brick or anything that's got any kind of natural silicates that come from the environment. Those tend to have uranium in their decay products. And so those will give you a bit of a dose. That terrestrial, that's things like the uranium that's actually in the ground irradiating it up. That internal, that's actually from natural potassium. That 5% there, that's because we have to have potassium to live. And again, when people get afraid of tritium, they're afraid of this tiny little fraction of that 1% that's right up there. That internal, that industrial, that has in there all radioactivity from all industrial activities, including industrial radiography. It's just not medical. And so when you look at the amount of tritium that's going into the ocean from Fukushima, it's just a small sliver of a small sliver, and people are afraid of it. But that tends to be the narrative that's out there about nuclear energy.